Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's Mucking Fun Day. It is time for March Madness for the college basketball sports fans out there. Let's go ahead and cover what has happened over the weekend and anything else we want to talk about here today on Before Coffee. Visitors to UK attractions increasing but still below pre-COVID levels.
And more Mucking Fun Day. Russia holds an election and the winner is Vladimir Putin.
Why the far right are on the rise again in Germany.
In other news, we have 4 astronauts return to Earth, and the United States is really taking off in alternative energy.
Artists weigh in on controversial The Zone of Interest Oscar speech.
Those stories and more, which is Slappy Joe Day. March 18th, 2024 on Before Coffee.
All right. It is our first news story coming out of the UK from Mark Brown on The Guardian. Visitors' numbers to the UK's museums, galleries, cathedrals, zoos, castles, and country houses are increasing, but remain stubbornly below the pre-pandemic levels, with a significant number of people still out of the habit of having a day out. Wait, why are we going outside again? Oh, right, because it's relatively safer to go outside. Figures released by the Association of Leading Visitor Attractions, or ALVA, on Monday showed a mixed picture. Which today is Monday, so I don't know why these websites all don't just say the date, just in case somebody's watching this not on the day it's released. But on March 18th, showed a mixed picture. On the bright side, there was a 19% increase in visitors' numbers in 2023 compared to 2022. The British Museum saw a 42% rise, making it the most visited attraction in the UK. Hey, probably all the people trying to see all their stolen artifacts. Oh, I just came here to look at the things that are mine and I'm not allowed to have back. The overall figures are still 11% down on 2019, the year before the pandemic, when there were 163.9 million visits to major venues, as against the 146.6 million last year. So there's like a 20 million people are probably dead. Let's go with that. That's kind of grim to think about, but maybe that is also why. Maybe those 20 million people are the people who did not survive the pandemic, hence they're not here to go visit your museum. Bernard Donoghue, the director of ALVA, said, "We are seeing really good year-on-year growth, but we always knew the recovery from lockdown would take a number of years. One of the reasons is the absence of the Chinese tourists." Yeah, they must have also died as well. A lot of people died. People kind of pretend that, oh no, nothing happened. Like, a lot of people did die from COVID. A large majority of people died. "We are hoping to get Chinese visitors back by about the end of the next year, but that has been a slow burn," Donoghue said. "But because of the lockdown of nearly 2 years, people just got out of the habit of going to places. The phenomena is particularly striking among UK residents aged over 65. Some of them are COVID anxious and some are just hanging out in their pounds, assisting their children and grandchildren." The annual figures list visitors numbers for 368 attractions. The British Museum took the number 1 spot for the first time since 2019, helped by the runaway success of China's Hidden Century exhibit, which ran from May to October. The museum had 5.8 million visitors compared to the 4.1 in 2022, a big increase, but still 7% down on 2019. Second was the Natural History Museum, which had its best ever year for visits, up 22%, aided by its exhibition of the Titanosaur, one of the largest creatures to have walked the planet. In the third place was 2022's number 1, Windsor's Great Park, which had 5.5 million visitors and was the UK's most visited outdoor attraction. In a coronation year, royal and royal-related venues saw a significant visitor increase. Buckingham Palace was up 75%, Windsor Castle by 66%, and Westminster Abbey by 49%. The most visited attraction in Scotland was the National Museum of Scotland in Edinburgh, up 11%, and 12th in the overall list. A Grayson Perry retrospective helped National Gallery Scotland have a record year with 44% visitor increase. The number one spot in Northern Ireland was the Titanic Belfast, and in Wales it was St. Fagans National Museum of History in Cardiff. In England, the most visited attraction outside of London and the southeast was Stonehenge, up 36%, but 17% down on 2019. Donoghue said that even in a cost of living crisis, people are still prioritizing day trips and spending special times with special people in special places. He said the figures for annual membership remained hearteningly similar to pre-COVID levels, coming as families cut costs in other areas such as TV channel subscriptions and takeaways. The squeeze on local authority budget was, Donoghue said, the biggest crisis facing culture in the UK since the lockdown and COVID. It is about how do we maintain our civic collections, and more importantly, how do we make sure people have access to them? Donoghue and US visitors had almost been the savior of UK tourism, coming in a large number after the disastrous Liz Truss Kwasi Kwarteng budget, which led to the weakening of the pound against the dollar. But more could be done by the government to attract tourists, he said, including the reinstatement of tax-free shopping for overseas visitors, a perk that Rishi Sunak scraped when he was Chancellor. So it's probably not going to happen under him as MP then. Or Prime Minister, PM, sorry. Donoghue said visitors were coming for shorter stays and then leaving to go shopping in Paris or Milan or Rome. We are the only European nation now that doesn't have tax-free shopping. Reintroducing it would help the recovery of the UK tourism enormously. Well, good luck to the UK for getting their tourism back. At least they don't have guns, but that's the only thing I can say. I think the UK and the US are quite similar in culture in certain ways. In capitalistic culture, I want to say. So, but there are definitely cool things to see around there. Lots of castles in Scotland, for example. I'm interested that they didn't talk about like the Warner Bros. Studios kind of Harry Potter stuff. I would think that that's still getting a lot of traction, even with the fall of J.K. Rowling, but maybe not. Maybe they also just aren't getting a lot of traffic due to myriad of reasons. I do find it interesting nobody mentioned that. I guess maybe deaths don't affect people visiting. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people died, and maybe that's why people aren't visiting, but that's my own bullshit theory that has no standing in science. On to your story.
In Russian news, Vladimir Putin sealed his control over Russia for 6 more years on Monday with a highly orchestrated landslide in an election that followed the harshest crackdown in the opposition to free speech since Soviet times. While the result was never in doubt, Russia attempted to defy the inevitable outcome, heeding a call to protest Putin's repression at home and his war on Ukraine by showing up at the polling stations at noon on Sunday. But from the earliest returns, it was clear Putin would extend his nearly quarter-century rule with a 5th term. With nearly all precincts counted on Monday, election officials said Putin has secured a record number of votes. An unsurprising development underlying the Russian leader's total control of the country's political system. Putin has led Russia as president or prime minister since December 1999, a tenure marked by international military aggression and increasing intolerance for dissent. At the end of his 5th term, Putin would be the longest-serving Russian leader since Catherine the Great ruled during the 18th century. Do you believe that shit? As early results come in, Putin hailed them as indication of trust and hope in him, while critics saw them as another reflection of the preordained nature of the election. Of course, we have lots of tasks ahead, but I want to make clear to everyone, when we are consolidated, no one has ever managed to frighten us, to suppress our will, or to our self-conscious. They failed in the past, and they will fail in the future, he said in the meeting with his campaign staff. May Putin die real soon. That would be just great. Anyway, any public criticism of Putin or his war in Ukraine has been stifled. Independent media has been crippled. His fiercest political foe, Alexei Navalny, died in an Arctic prison last month, and other critics are either in jail or in exile. Beyond the fact that voters have virtually no choice, independent monitoring of the election was extremely limited. Russia's Central Election Commission said Monday that with nearly 100% of precincts counted, Putin got 87% of the vote. Central Election Commission Chief Ella Pamfilova said that nearly 76 million voters cast their ballots for Putin, the highest vote tally ever. Western leaders denounced, of course, the choices are vote for Putin or lose a finger. Those are your two choices. Western leaders denounced the election as a sham, which it was, while President Vladimir Zelensky particularly criticized voting in Ukrainian areas that Russia has illegally annexed, saying everything Russia does on the occupied territory of Ukraine is a crime. Lithuanian Foreign Minister Gabrielius Landsbergis said on the weekend, voting definitely cannot be called an election. This voting can definitely not be called an election. It is a procedure that is supposed to resemble elections. He said some might call it a reappointment, lacking any legitimacy. Meanwhile, Chinese President Xi Jinping and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un quickly congratulated Putin, along with some Central and South American leaders and presidents of nations that have historic and close ties with Russia, such as Azerbaijan, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan. All the stands got together to congratulate Putin. In a tightly controlled environment, Navalny's associates urged those unhappy with Putin or the war to go to the polls at noon on Sunday in lines outside a number of polling stations, both inside Russia and its embassies around the world, appeared to swell at that time. Among those heading the call was Yulia Navalny's widow, who spent more than 5 hours in a line at a Russian embassy in Berlin. She told reporters that she wrote her late husband's name on her ballot. Asked whether she had a message for Putin, Navalny replied, "Please stop asking for messages from me or from somebody for Mr. Putin. There could be no negotiations and nothing with Mr. Putin because he's a killer. He's a gangster." A voter in Moscow identified himself only as Vadim, said he hoped for change, but added, "Unfortunately, it's unlikely. Like others, he didn't give his full name because of security concerns." While supporters of Navalny streamed to his grave in Moscow, some bringing ballots with his name written on them. Putin brushed off the effectiveness of the apparent protests and rejected Western criticism of the vote as he tried to turn the tables on the West, charging that the 4 criminal cases against U.S. Republican candidate defendant J. Trump were used in the judiciary. Okay, Putin. We're on to you, buddy. We know you're a propagandist. Several people are arrested, including in Moscow and St. Petersburg, after they tried to start fires or set off explosives at polling stations, while a few others were detained for throwing green antiseptic ink into ballot boxes. Many more were rounded up by police for attempting to protest. So, election in Moscow is a complete farce. Putin's posturing as if, oh yeah, well, you can't elect criminals in the United States. And there's your nose. I know that's oversimplified. And I don't hear you, so here we are. I'm just have to guess when you're done talking.
No, I was muted. Okay.
Oh,
No
okay.
surprise here that, I was talking about it last week, what was going to happen, so don't know what to say. It's not really a democracy if you basically say, oh, sorry, you're not eligible to be leader of the country. That's what they did. Like, there's people that were literally not, their papers weren't accepted for applying to be in the election. Sorry. You're not eligible. Why? Because we don't want you to win.
It's fun to pretend. It's fun to pretend you had election.
Yeah.
Oh, look at cute little Russia. Pretend they had an election. Aren't you so cute? Aren't you so
swear.
adorable, little Russia? Oh, look at Moscow. Pretending they had real elections.
I swear to you, we're a democracy. People definitely put ballots in a box. Did we count them? Not sure. All right. Anyways, enough getting angry about Russia. Let's get angry about the far right in Germany instead. This is coming out of The Independent. When Sabine Thonk joined a recent demonstration in Berlin. Oh, let me see if somebody wrote this article. Sometimes it doesn't show. Kristen Grischhaber wrote this article for The Independent. All right. When Sabine Thonk joined a recent demonstration in Berlin against Germany's far-right party, it was the first time in years she felt hopeful that the growing power of the extremists in her country could be stopped. Thonk, 59, had been following the rise of the Alternative for Germany, or AfD, with unease. But when she heard about a plan to deport millions of people, she felt called to action, which we've talked about for last month or the month before on the show. They had a little meeting, and people who happened to go to that meeting were also in the party Alternative for Germany, and they said something along the lines of deporting everybody, even people with citizenship who don't belong, and they got in a bit of trouble for being at that meeting. I never thought such inhuman ideas would be gaining popularity in Germany again. I thought we had learned a lesson from our past, Thonk said. Many Germans believed their country had developed an immunity to nationalism and assertions of racial superiority after confronting the horrors of its Nazi past through education and laws to outlaw persecution. They were wrong. If an election were held today, the AfD would be the second largest party, according to polls. Which, who are they asking in these polls? Always question that. But national polls camouflage an important division. The AfD has disproportionate support in the formerly communist and less prosperous eastern states of Germany. After the fall of communism in 1989, and the unification of East and West Germany a year later, many people in the 5 eastern states lost not only their jobs, but their collective past, leaving them disoriented and helpless in a capitalist system. The AfD's rise has been propelled by anger over inflation and, above all, rising immigration. The EU received 1.1 million asylum seekers in 2023, the highest number since 2015, which was also a refugee crisis. Germany got by far the largest number of claims, more than 300,000, mostly from Syria, Afghanistan, and Turkey. The country has also taken in more than 1 million Ukrainian refugees displaced by the Russian invasion. Germany is a really big country. I don't know if they know this. So yeah, they have more room to take more people. I'm just saying, expecting the Netherlands, which has, it's the size of Maryland, for anybody who doesn't know. It's basically the size of Maryland. It's not the size of Virginia. It's quite a small country, and expecting them to take just as many people as Germany is crazy. Germany is probably the largest country in Europe, if you don't include Russia, which obviously they won't be taking any refugees, because they'll just force citizenship on them, but... Germany is quite large, so them complaining about taking the most people is well, I don't know, get a smaller country. I don't know what to tell you. Don't be so big. You won't have more room to take people.
Go on a diet.
Yeah, voters in Germany and across Europe are increasingly empowering the far-right nationalist parties who promise to restrict immigration, and in some cases, constrain democratic freedoms of religion, of expression, or the right to protest. These forces have bubbled up in France, Italy, the Netherlands, and Austria. I do think it's cute that they're saying people are empowering them. What it actually is, it's a loop. They tell you there's a problem and that they have the solution for it, and then you're like, oh shit, I didn't even know there's a problem, but thank God you're here to solve it for me. That's kind of what's happening with these far-right parties. They're telling you to worry about things that really don't matter. And then, because I don't know why, maybe people are bored, maybe they want to worry about something, but oh God, I need to worry about the farmers and the Polish people are replacing me, and oh God, I didn't know these things were happening until that guy told me, and he told me he'll fix it for me. So everything's great for me. I really don't want to say they're being empowered by the people. I think they're empowering themselves through a loop system.
Right. Yeah.
They're creating their own people to empower them. Populism. After 1945, West Germans grew up with the guiding principle that there should never again be a dictatorship on German soil. West German leaders made visits to Israel and apologized to countries occupied by Nazis, while school children were taken to see concentration camps or Holocaust memorials. But in the East, a self-declared anti-fascist society, young people were taught that they were only the descendants of Nazi victims. Thonk, who works at the Berlin's water utility, grew up in Bavaria, which was part of the West Germany before reunification in 1990. She said she did not speak much with her grandparents, the Nazi generation, about what happened during the Third Reich, but learned about Adolf Hitler's rise to power and the Holocaust in schools. Today's far right is using similar tactics, she said, exploiting people's fears to win their trust and their votes. I understand that many people are worn out from these crises, the coronavirus pandemic, the war in Ukraine, the many migrants, inflation, and that they're afraid that things are going to get worse, Thunk said. But the solution the AfD offers won't solve any of these problems. Polls show that AfD at the top party in the eastern states of Saxony and Thuringia will, with roughly 35% support in each. Both states have elections this fall, along with the eastern state of Brandenburg, where the AfD is also expected to make strong gains. The AfD's appeal is particularly strong among men and increasingly younger voters. In the last state election in Hesse and Bavaria in October, AfD made significant gains among voters 24 and younger. I think we even talked about this while we were in Berlin. I think it was September, we were in Berlin. We were talking about these AfD rise and the worries for these elections that happened in October, which experts attributed to young voters' frustration with migration and the party's savvy internet presence. About 2/3 of the party's voters are men. What do they mean by young voters? Do they mean people younger than 65 or like people younger than 35? I don't know what they mean by young voters. That worries me if it's true that there's people who are like 35 or younger who are like, yeah, AfD is gonna fix my problems, and that they're frustrated by migration. Are they? I don't know. I guess I need to talk to some people from Germany who are 35 and younger and ask them, are you frustrated by migration? Is that really affecting your life? Or are people telling you you should be frustrated with migration? Because there's a difference there. Being told you should worry about something. The party has benefited from voters' deep frustration with Chancellor Olaf Scholz. His government came to power over 2 years ago with a progressive, modernizing agenda, but now is viewed by many as dysfunctional and incapable. Who are these many? I'm just questioning this article. Like, who are these many that are viewing him this way? You know, the loud minority. You know, if like 10 people are yelling really loudly, do you think everyone thinks that way? I don't know. The AfD's Thuringia branch is particularly radical and was put under official surveillance by the Domestic Intelligence Service 4 years ago as a proven right-wing extremist group. AfD's Thuringia leader, Bjorn Höcke, has various times espoused revisionist views of Germany's Nazi past. In 2018, he called the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin a monument of shame and called for Germany to make a 180-degree turn in a way it remembers its past. The AfD is a nationalist party, and nationalists want to be proud of their history. And anyone who wants to be very proud of German history must, of course, minimize, play down, or even deny the shame of Nazi crimes in order to be able to tell the story of national greatness, says Jens Christian Wagner, a historian and the head of the Buchenwald Memorial, a former concentration camp in Thuringia, where the Nazis killed more than 56,000 people. Attacks on the former concentration camp have stepped up massively in recent months. Wagner says this is because of the revisionist, anti-Semitic, and racist slogans promoted by the AfD. Since January, a wave of protests against the far right has swept across Germany, triggered by a report that the right-wing extremists met to discuss the deportation of millions of immigrants, including some with German citizenship. AfD members were present at the meeting, along with Martin Sellner, a pervasive young Austrian with neo-Nazi links and convictions for violent extremism. Friggin' Hitler 2.0, it sounds like. Demonstrations in cities such as Berlin, Munich, Hamburg, and Dusseldorf have drawn hundreds of thousands of participants at a time, so many that authorities have had to end some marches early due to safety concerns with overcrowded streets. People also turned out for protests in smaller towns and even held weekly vigils in their neighborhood to express their frustration with the growing support for far-right populism at the ballot box. More than 2.4 million people have so far joined the anti-AfD protests, which began in mid-January, according to German Interior Minister. The organizers of the demonstrations estimate more than 3.6 million people have participated. So that's a lot of people. Earlier waves of protests against the anti-Islam and anti-immigration movement, Pegida, eventually ran out of steam, although they weren't as large as the anti-AfD movement that is building. Still, the AfD is riding high. In December, it marked another milestone when the first time a candidate won a mayoral election in the mid-sized town of Pirna in Saxony. Now the party is setting its sights on elections for the European Parliament in June. If Donk and her fellow protesters want to push back against the far right, they will have to persuade their compatriots not just protest, but to turn out in large numbers at the ballot box and say no to the AfD. So there's your scary rise of the AfD in Germany. Breaking news, I guess. I'm not sure if it's breaking news. We've been covering this for a while now, at least on this new show. So keep your eyes out if you know any Germans, to ask them the question of why they care about migrants and if they're not just being panhandled by the AfD. Your story.
All right. Well, more mucking fun day. 4 astronauts have returned to Earth. I don't know if they call them astronauts in another country. I thought that was an American term. I was pausing. I was like, we call people from Russia astronauts? I thought we called them cosmonauts.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
But
that's
4
a
astronauts. This is
older term.
one of them was Russian. So, and Marcia Dunn from AP has the story. 4 astronauts from 4 countries caught a lift back to Earth with SpaceX on Tuesday to end a half-year mission at the International Space Station. Their capsule streaked across the U.S. in the pre-dawn darkness. It splashed down in the Gulf of Mexico near the Florida Panhandle. NASA's Jasmine Magbelli, a Marine helicopter pilot, led the returning crew. Of Denmark's Andreas Morgensen, Japan's Satoshi Furukawa, and Russia's Konstantin Borisov. They moved into the space station last August. The replacements arrived last week in their own SpaceX capsule. We left you some peanut butter and tortillas, Magbelli radioed after departing the orbiting complex on Monday. Replied NASA's Laurel O'Hara, I missed you guys already, and thanks for that very generous gift. O'Hara has another few weeks at the space station before leaving aboard a Russian Soyuz capsule. Before leaving in the space station, Morgensen said via social media that he couldn't wait to hear birds singing in the trees and also crave crunchy food. NASA prefers multiple travel options in case of rocket trouble. Boeing should start providing astronaut taxi service with a 2-pilot test flight in early May. Taxi service. There's your quick story on the astronauts. Now we're going to talk about the environment after we point out that Kansas City had a St. Patrick's Day parade yesterday and nobody was shot. So
the bar is low.
Kansas City. Way to go, everybody. Way to go, USA. No one shot at any of those parades yesterday. We did it. Of course, there was other shootings everywhere else because it is the United States. And in environmental news, this is from Jennifer McDermott of Associated Press. Across the U.S., batteries and green energies like wind and solar combine for a major climate solution. In the Arizona desert, a Danish company is building a massive solar farm that includes batteries that charge when the sun is shining and supply energy back to the electric grid when it's not. Combining batteries with green energy is a fast-growing climate solution. Solar farms only produce when the sun shines, and the turbines only produce when the wind blows, said Ørsted CEO Mads
The wheels on the bus go round and round. It's just obvious,
all around the town. For us to maximize the availability of the green power 24/7, we have to store some of it too. Well, that's not news, really. The United States is rapidly adding batteries, mostly lithium-ion type, to store energy at large scale. Increasingly, these are getting paired with solar and wind projects like in Arizona. The agencies that run electric grids, utility companies, and developers of renewable energy say that combining technologies is essential for green energy future. Batteries allow renewables to replace fossil fuels like oil, gas, and coal, while keeping a steady flow of power when sources like wind and solar are not producing. For example, when people are sleeping and thus using less electricity, the energy produced from wind blowing through the night can be stored in battery. What is this, grade school? And used when demand is high during the day. Juan Medindez, a resident of Tempe, Arizona, gets power from local utility Salt River Project, which is collaborating with Ørsted on the 11-mile solar center. As a state senator, Mendez pushed SRP to move renewable energies. He thinks the power company is still investing too much in gas and coal plants, including a major expansion planned for a natural gas plant in Coolidge, Arizona, near the solar center. The solar plus storage is a good step, but SRP needs to do more to provide clean energy and clean up our air and help address climate change, Mendez said. The utility said it's adding more renewable energies to its energy mix and recently pledged to zero out its emissions by 2050. The U.S. has the second most electrical storage in the world after China. In 2023, the U.S. added an estimated 7.5 gigawatts, 62% more than 2022, according to the Bloomberg NEF and the Business Council for Sustainable Energy Fact Book. That amount can power 750,000 homes for a day and brings the total amount of installed capacity nationwide to nearly enough for 2 million homes for one day, according to Bloomberg NEF. The U.S. California leads in energy storage as it aggressively cuts greenhouse gas emissions. It has twice as much as any other state. Residential, commercial, and utility scale battery installation increased by 757% over in just 4 years, meaning there's now enough to power 6.6 million homes for up to 4 hours, according to the California Energy Commission. That's partly because in 2013, the California Public Utilities Commission told utilities to buy energy storage with a target to be met by 2020. Since then, power companies have continued to add more batteries to help the state meet clean energy requirements. Southern California Edison is one utility adding thousands of hours of energy storage. It's putting on solar panel batteries to replace some power plants that burn natural gas and would typically supply electricity in the evening. If it's just clean and not reliable, you really don't have anything, said William Walsh, Vice President for Energy Procurement and Management. We need both. In California, batteries provided their value in 2022 as the West was experiencing a long heat wave that set temperatures to the triple digits. Electricity demand reached its highest state ever seen on September 6, 2022, as people cranked up their air conditioning. Welch credits the batteries added to the grid between 20 and 22 with helping to avoid blackouts. 2 years earlier, there were rolling electrical outages in California during similar extreme heat waves. Texas has the second most battery storage after California. Last month, Schneider Electric announced it's teaming up with energy company Engie North America on solar and battery systems in Texas to get closer to the French multinational's 100% renewable energy goal in the U.S. and Canada. Before the Inflation Reduction Act, a major climate law passed in 2022, the deal and the necessary $80 million investment would not have been possible, says Hans Royal, Schneider Electric Senior Director for Renewable Energy and Carbon Advisory. So Joe Biden providing money with his Inflation Reduction Act. Back in Arizona, Orstad's 11-mile solar center covers 2,000 acres in rural Pinal County. It has 857,000 solar panels and more than 2,000 cubes that look like large shipping containers but contain battery modules. Orsted also has a large solar and storage projects in Texas and Alabama and in Europe. When the Arizona facility opens this summer, most power from the solar farm will go to Facebook owner Meta's data center in Mesa. The solar power not needed by Meta, in addition to the power stored in the batteries, will go to local utilities consumers. The new batteries can ensure power to roughly 65,000 homes, not dollar homes, during the peak hours. Man. What I think is exciting is just how rapidly this market is moving, said Yayoi Sikine, head of the energy storage at Bloomberg NEF. There is so much pressure for the U.S. and different regions to decarbonize, and storage is one of the major technologies that enable that. There's a lot of momentum. And there's your Mucking Fun Day clean energy news. Back to you.
Yeah, 700% increase is crazy. That 700. like 700%.
That was
Wow.
up there.
Amazing. All right, clean energy is on our way. So let's talk about the zone of interest, which is about controversial Jewish opinions, I guess. That Jewish person had an opinion that is what I would think is counter to the Zionists or whatever. It's a controversy. This is our culture news segment coming off of Euronews by Laszlo Nemes. Jonathan Glazer's words on Oscar night have been labeled morally indefensible and reprehensible. Now, several Oscar-winning directors have weighed in, including Son of Saul director Laszlo Nemes and Amy director Asif Kapadia. Controversy continues to rage regarding Jonathan Glazer's polarizing speech at the Oscars. When the British filmmaker took to the stage after the Auschwitz set Holocaust drama, The Zone of Interest was announced as Best International Feature. Which, you know, surprise, the Holocaust film got an Oscar. Good job, everyone. You're predictable. He delivered a stirring speech in which he drew a parallel between his film and the current conflict in Gaza. Glazer, who is Jewish, said those killed in both Israel and Gaza were victims of dehumanization. I agree. Mass casualties of civilians is a result of dehumanization. How do you just kill people who are just minding their business, have nothing to do with your territorial, whatever bullshit you wanna, you know? How are they involved at all? I'm just a little kid going to school. Get him! You know, whatever. That is definitely a result, and both sides. Our film shows where dehumanization leads at its worst. It's shaped all of our past and present. Continued, right now, we stand here as men who refute their Jewishness and the Holocaust being hijacked by an occupation which has led to conflict for so many innocent people. Whether the victims of October 7th in Israel or the ongoing attack in Gaza, all the victims of this are dehumanization. How do we resist? Glazer has received criticism for his words, specifically from the Holocaust Survivors Foundation, USA, HSF, whose chairman, David Schechter, labeled the speech morally indefensible, and that the Anti-Defamation League, who posted a message on social media saying that his comments were reprehensible. Glazer used a common refrain from Jew haters. Lovely. That the Holocaust is the get-out-of-jail-free card for Jews, said Alison Josephs, founder and executive director of Jew in the City. He blamed Jews for their own massacre by saying that the occupation led to a conflict for so many people, which is why he was refuting his Jewishness and the Holocaust being used for this purpose. Cillian Murphy accepted his award as a proud Irishman. If only we had a single Jew in Hollywood who could accept their award as a very proud Jew. I don't want to fact check me, but I swear people have said that many times. In the history, I don't think anyone out there's going, oh, I can't say I'm a proud Jew. There's so many comedians, for example, who say that stuff all the time. Some of my favorite comedians are Jewish, and they're always talking about how Jewish they are and how they make jokes about being Jewish and are proud to be Jewish. So, yeah, this sounds like what you would want to call selective, selective reality, I guess. In my reality, Jews are hiding in their basements and are afraid to be proud. But I'm sorry that you're surrounded by people who are feeling that way, and maybe you should try helping them feel proud instead of yelling at a guy who, said something you disagree with, I guess. Anyways, be proud if you're Jewish. Just don't be proud of being a genocidal maniac. That's what we're asking here. We killed people! Woo! Now, several other notable directors have weighed in, as the controversy does not appear to be dying down. Hungarian director Laszlo Nemes, whose harrowing Auschwitz set drama Son of Saul 2016 has criticized the British director. His award-winning film shares direct parallels with The Zone of Interest, and not just in setting. Both films premiered at Cannes where they both won, Cannes, and they both won the Grand Prix, and both won the Oscar for Best International Feature. Yeah, because they're freaking Holocaust films. I'm sorry. Like, that's it. Everyone knows this. Everyone, like, for years, for centuries, people have known if you want to get an award at the Oscars, you make a Holocaust film and you almost guaranteedly get one. And I'm not saying that the films aren't good or they don't have a good message, but acting
I hope I look up all the Oscar films and they're not, that isn't true.
I'm just saying, acting like, you know, it's a
Careful with
surprise.
generalizations,
I'm not
man.
surprised. If a Holocaust film wins an award, I'm not surprised. And honestly, I think they deserve them because, obviously, according to Germany, they don't get enough freaking
If it's well made, any film deserves an award. Right?
Every film deserves an Oscar. All of them.
Who cares about the... No, if it's well made,
oh, okay, well.
Any film deserves an award.
All right.
They're silly. Go ahead.
In a statement, Nemes said, "I like The Zone of Interest very much, and I think it's an important movie. When you make a movie like this, there is a responsibility attached to it. Lazar has clearly failed to measure this responsibility, including a vis-a-vis the destruction of European Jews. It was appalling that the elite of cinema was applauding him for it." Huh? Where are you getting that idea? I mean, that's so funny because he's a Jew himself, right? He is actually Jewish. Jewish man. The director doubled down in a statement shared with The Guardian in which he says, "Glazer should have stayed silent." Ah, yeah, classic. Just shut your mouth and don't speak. It is strange when the overclass of Hollywood preaches to the world about morality instead of worrying about the sorry state of cinema, the crashing level of craft and artistry in films, the destruction of creative and artistic freedoms by corporate mindset, or the conquest of pyramid schemes, streaming services, producing junk cinema, said Nemes' statement. So, he's like, oh, don't talk about Jewish people, but talk about the real struggle of cinema. But then you shut up and don't say anything. Okay. When they should aspire, in a world where more and more fragmented and drawn to its own destruction, to create meaningful movies. The disconnected, hypocritical, and spoiled members of cinema elite are busy, for some reason, trying to moralize us. The Zone of Interest is an important movie, continues Nemes. It is not made in a usual way. It questions the grammar of cinema. Its director should have stayed silent instead of revealing he has no understanding of history and the forces undoing civilization. Oh my god, this is so dramatic. Before or after the Holocaust. Had he embraced the responsibility that comes with film like that, he would not have resorted to talking points disseminated by propaganda meant to eradicate, at the end, all Jewish presence from the earth. Okay, this guy's off his rocker. It is especially troubling in an age. Sorry, I would love to take him seriously, but thinking that there's some sort of eradication genocide happening where all... Like, I will admit, there was a huge amount of anti-Semitism in European history, especially in Eastern Europe, famously.
There still
is. But to think that there's some sort of huge conspiracy to eradicate all Jews off the planet because somebody said people in Gaza are victims of dehumanization. That's all he said, right? He said the victims in Gaza and Israel are they're victims of dehumanization. That's what he said. And Nemes is going straight into he's participating in the global conspiracy to eradicate us all from the planet. Okay, I understand you're emotionally invested in this, but wow. It is especially troubling, and this is still a quote from Nemes, it is especially troubling in an age where we are reaching pre-Holocaust levels of anti-Jewish hatred, this time in a trendy, progressive way. Today, the only form of discrimination not only tolerated, but also encouraged as anti-Semitism. But maybe it all makes sense, ironically. There's absolutely no Jewish presence on the screen in the Zone of Interest. Please define Jewish presence. Alright. His statement ends with saying, let's all be shocked by the Holocaust safely in the past and not see how the world might eventually one day finish Hitler's job in the name of progress and endless good. Glazer's speech was met with mixed response on Oscar night and highlights a growing divide in Hollywood, especially at the wake of the 7 October attacks in Israel. Glazer skipped the backstage press room interviews after his Oscar win and hasn't done any interviews to clarify his words or answer any questions. Yeah, because that's kind of how the media works. They're going to go around and around your words until your words don't even have any meaning anymore. And they, like this guy, like Nemes. It means he wants to eradicate Jews, huh? He said like a very small, simple speech, and you're making it into a huge global conspiracy. No wonder he didn't go to the press room interviews. However, there are other voices that have praised the director, including celebrated filmmaker Asif Kapadia, who won the 2015 Best Feature Documentary Oscar for Amy. Kapadia told Variety that Glazer used his power and position and the biggest global stage to speak up for people with no power, no voice, and those too afraid to speak up, in an industry which is very conservative and risk-averse, which has a long history of blacklisting people. He concluded by saying, he stood up and told the truth. This is what true artists do. Yeah, call me an anti-Semitist because I think people should speak if their truth, I guess. But there you go. That is your big controversial anti-Semitist Oscar
I just take
speech.
it as you're criticizing the Israeli government is the same thing as criticizing Jews.
Yeah. Well, like I said, he's not even,
Right.
he didn't speak about the government. He didn't say anything about anyone's government. He just said the people who are being killed in both places are victims of dehumanization. Dehumanization. That's all
exactly.
he said.
Victims are victims of religion. They're victims of religion. Forget Jew, Muslim. They're victims of religion.
I mean, interestingly enough, there's actually a large amount of Christian people in Gaza.
Oh yeah, that's not surprising at all. There's
billions
also Jehovah's
similar
Witnesses,
to the U.S.
There's
Gaza is full of
Scientologists.
all the
people
religions
living there,
that
right?
exist in the world. It's not just Muslim people, right? But it's way easier, like I said, dehumanization. It's way easier to first say they're all the same, right? They're all Muslims,
Well,
and then dehumanize them further by saying, and because of that, they don't deserve to live. And the end, Way
Israel
easier
has
to
the
say
same
that
problem.
than to actually talk about the complicated cultural situation that is Gaza and Israel as well. So
Israel
yeah.
has the same problem England has, UK has, which is they keep electing these conservatives who think that our way is the only way.
Yeah.
Our way is the only way. Our way is the only way. That's what conservatives are. That's what they are. They just don't think free thought is useful. So, anyway, this day in history.
Yeah, this day in history.
All right. Before we drag this out even farther,
We
this
talk
day in
about
history,
everyone
the
talks
British
about it way
Parliament-
too much. Yeah.
Yeah, the British Parliament repealed the Stamp Act of 1765 on this day in 1766 after a group of Sons of Liberty dumped a bunch of tea in Boston Harbor. 1837, American politician Grover Cleveland, who was the only U.S. president to serve 2 discontinuous terms, was born. 1869, Neville Chamberlain was born, who was the British Prime Minister from May 27th, 1937 until May 10th, 1940. He's the guy that appeased Hitler. Don't forget that guy. Neville Chamberlain's birthday. He appeased Hitler. He said, we'll have peace
I mean,
in
as
our
we're
time.
seeing now, to be
Peace
fair,
in-
right? As we're seeing now, it's quite easy for people to be like, "Oh, it's gonna be fine." The people would never let that happen. That's
Well,
every single,
If it's in,
I mean, look at, like I said, look at Putin, right?
he has a
It's gonna be
3-line
fine.
biography, though.
Yeah, it's not fine.
Don't appease Hitler.
Yeah, don't appease
there's a
anybody,
history
any
lesson
dictator
for
that
you.
is obviously
Don't
taking all the
appease
power.
Hitler. Because you'll end up on Britannica with a 3-line biography, and one of those lines is going to call you an appeaser of Hitler, which is what they did.
And you don't want that.
1871. Yeah, exactly. 1871, the Commune of Paris, an insurrection against Parisians against the French government began, lasting until May 28th. 1902, Italian operatic tenor Enrico Caruso, one of the first musicians to document his voice on a gramophone, made his first phonograph recording. And it won the Grammy. No, they didn't have Grammys.
He won the Grammy.
1906, the first monoplane instruction by Romanian inventor Trajan Voia made his first flight of 12 meters. So the first monoplane. 12 whole meters.
Wow.
Take you a while to get somewhere that way. 1932, American writer John Updike was born. 1936, Politician F.W. de Klerk, president of South Africa, was born. 1964, speed skater Bonnie Blair, one of the most successful American women athletes in Olympic competition, was born in Cornwall, New York. 1965, Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov, after passing through an airlock in the spacecraft Voskhod 2, became the first man to walk in space. 1974, seven-member countries OPEC lifted a 5-month oil embargo against the United States. Oh, do I remember 1974 oil embargo? The gas lines could not buy gas. In 1990, in a lot of places, they just lined up the gas station overnight, waited for the gas to show up. In 1990, it was considered the world's biggest art heist. Two men pretending to be police officers stole 13 works, including paintings by Rembrandt and Johannes Vermeer, from the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. The stolen art has still not been recovered. So 1990, they apparently got away with it. That's 34 years ago. 2012, Tongan King Pupo the fifth, died and was succeeded by his younger brother, Crown Prince Lavaka, who took the name Tupon VI. That's in Tonga. In 2017, Chuck Berry, legendary rock and roll star, died at the age of 90 this day in 2017. Could have played some Chuck Berry, but last time we did that, I got blocked. So we're probably not going to play Chuck Berry today. We're just going to quote him, maybe. I don't know. Our featured event on this day in 2000, Chen Shu-bian, leader of the pro-independence movement that sought statehood for Republic of China, Taiwan, was elected president of Taiwan, breaking the Nationalist Party 55-year rule. In our feature biography, Queen Latifah's birthday today. Queen Latifah turned 53. He was born on 1970. God, here we are again. She's 54 because Britannica cannot do math. I don't know if they watch this, but it's not 2023 Britannica. It's 2024. Happy 54th birthday to Queen Latifah. Grover Cleveland, we covered that. Mike Webster, American football player, born in 1952. And Sutton Foster, American actress and singer. Our time capsule, coincidentally, March 18th, 1997, Israel begins construction of 6,500 houses for Jewish settlers at Jabal Abu Ghanim in East Jerusalem, defying international opposition and precipitating weeks of demonstration of the area. That's right.
Yeah, that's one thing
Israel
they love to do is defying
shit.
International opinion. That's their favorite thing.
Yep, exactly. Defied 6,500 settlers that are living there to this day and pissing off the Palestinians. Just said, hey, the international community said you can't build there. What about us? What about us? And Israel said, tough shit. Be quiet or we'll bomb you. Be quiet or we will bomb you. Okay. See, I don't take sides. I'm just telling you the facts. That's horse shit. Plain and simple.
I take sides for sure.
Hey, man. I think all humans are just basically the same. So, because I'm a human, I don't have to sit here and go, oh, you people are different and you're wrong. I don't know. Sorry. I think most people are just complete morons and they just don't know. So this is our job to inform, right? Tell you your preconceived notions might not necessarily be right. An open mind is a good thing.
Yeah, I have an open
National
mind, but I still have my own
Moments Day.
opinions. Yeah.
National Awkward Moments Day is today. It's also National Sacrifice Day.
The awkward
National
moment when
Lacy Oatmeal Cookie Day. What's that?
It's Awkward Moments Day. That used to be a meme, I don't know, back in 2010. That awkward moment when ... That's what you would do. It was a very famous meme template. That awkward moment when you don't open the door for the person who's standing in there. I don't know. Just that awkward moment.
That's my favorite. My favorite awkward moment is I see somebody coming up to the door, and I'm going into a building. Right, I will hold the door open for them when they're like 30 paces away and make them run. And they always run. Every time they run. I was like, you don't have to run. I'll stand here as long as necessary. But if you open a door for somebody and they're more than, say, 5 paces away from the door, they speed up. Because they don't want to... See, that's where people are inherently good. They don't want to waste your time.
That awkward moment when you're at a sleepover at a friend's house and you're the first one to wake up. You know, there you go. There's a good awkward moment.
Oh, yeah, that's terrible.
Oh, shit. This isn't my house.
Should I... Are you... Yeah. And then you got to use the bathroom and you're trying to be quiet. Ah! Yeah. Good luck with that.
Or you just go down to the living room and you just sit there and like, oh, I'm hungry for breakfast. Guess I'll wait for somebody to wake up and make breakfast.
And for breakfast, you can have National Lacy Oatmeal Cookie Day. Or you can have lacy oatmeal cookies. Lacy oatmeal cookies are like has streusel all over it or something. It's National Sloppy Joe Day. The old Adam Sandler song. And it's National Biodiesel Day. So those are the days for today. And I guess we're going to do March Madness?
Yes. We're just going to do the first 4 picks because that's tomorrow.
Oh, yes. All right,
or the men's bracket, and I guess we also will do the women's bracket.
We'll do all.
Yeah, because who cares?
We'll do both today because there's only 8 games.
So everyone get out your bracket sheet from wherever you get your bracket sheets from, and let's go ahead and name our... I'll name mine, and then you name yours, and then we'll do women's. You'll name your women's, and I'll name mine, and then we'll end it. Okay, so these are my first 4 picks for the going into the official bracket. For the men's bracket, I'm going to go with Wagner because he was in an article today. So
wait, you got to announce them. Are you announcing the matchups?
Oh, you want me to say the matchups, or you want to say the matchups?
Yeah, the matchups. We got Wagner versus Howard, or Wagner if you're German.
Wagner.
It's not just 2 guys named Wagner and Howard playing. Howard is
just 2 guys
historically black college.
Free shot, friggin'. Who gets
Howard
the most basket?
HBCU. What it is.
Okay.
All right. So you picked.
I'm picking Wagner because he was in an article. So there. That's my logic there.
I'm picking Howard. They're both 16 seeds. I'm picking Howard. Now, and that's a play-in. Local team.
And then the next matchup is Colorado State and Virginia. And I'm going to go with Colorado because I have a friend who lives in Colorado. That's my logic.
Well, it's Colorado State, but
yeah,
they're the Rams. I'm going to the Virginia Cavaliers because their coach is Tony Bennett of Wisconsin.
Okay. See, I'm more of like, I know nothing about basketball, so I'm like the least educated about this. I'm just going for my gut feeling, and he's going for maybe actual team dynamics here. The next matchup
I'm actually
is
not doing any logic at all. None. I don't know anything about these teams. Go ahead.
Next matchup is Grambling and Montana State, and I'll go for Grambling because that's a funny name.
Grambling is another historically black college. I'm taking them. Taking Grambling.
Well, I didn't even know that, but that makes sense. And then the final matchup is just Colorado, the entire state of Colorado, and Boise State.
The Buffaloes.
The Buffalo,
Boise
Colorado.
State.
Yeah.
Trying to think what Boise State's nickname is. But I'm taking Boise State because they have blue AstroTurf in their football field. That's how I'm taking them.
I'm also gonna go for Boise State for
Alrighty.
That
and the
setup.
Women's.
Now for the women's
first
4, we've got Sacred Heart and Presbyterian, and I will go with Presbyterian because I think I went with Sacred Heart last time. I don't know.
Definitely seems like the private school section here, right?
Yeah.
The private Christian school section. We're going with Presbyterian because I just want to hear that over and over again.
All right. The second matchup will be Holy Cross versus UT Martin, and I want to go for UT Martin for no reason.
Yeah, I always I always wanted a college that's just named after a person.
Yeah.
You know, Martin Lawrence, I think it's named after.
Yeah.
Or Steve Martin, maybe. Steve Martin. It's named after Steve Martin, a comedian. UT Martin will take. It's Tennessee Martin.
All right. For the next matchup is Auburn and Arizona, and I will go with Auburn because of the famous actress.
I'm going with Auburn because Charles Barkley went there. How's that?
Oh, really? Okay. And on the women's team.
Well, I'm sure he knew women while he was in Auburn.
All right. It's just funny to think. All right.
Bo Jackson also went there.
The final matchup here for the first four for the women's is Vanderbilt and Columbia. I'll go with Vanderbilt because I live in the Netherlands, and that's a Dutch name.
I'm telling you what, Vanderbilt and Columbia, the SAT scores are going to be monstrous because Vanderbilt is a private university built by the Vanderbilts, you know, the big, huge railroad conglomerate. And Columbia is an Ivy League school. So I'm going with Columbia in this one.
Okay.
Columbia never wins anything. All right, that's it.
Yeah, that's our March Madness picks for the first four. I guess play along with us if you want to. Even if you don't know anything about basketball, because that's what I'm doing. I know nothing about basketball.
Just make fun of our picks.
Yep.
Take them to the casino and gamble on them now.
That's his message, not mine. All right, let's go ahead.
There's our money in the bank.
We'll see you tomorrow for some Good Tues News Day, where we will cover all the good news that's happening today and tomorrow, and maybe even over the weekend. Take care out there. We'll see you next time, and here is your mic drop moment.
Now, this just in, police officers in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, were asking people to be on the lookout for a man who robbed a store. And I think we do have his description. Can we take that? Let's take his description. Okay, this is the guy they wanted people in Pennsylvania to be out on the lookout for. He's got a nose and some hair that goes like that, and he was wearing a hat at the time of this particular crime. He's got kind of a chin that comes down to almost a point. Stands about 5 feet 4 inches tall. There it is. Get a good look for yourself. Oh, and now I'm getting word that police actually caught this guy, thanks to the sketch, no doubt. So here's a picture of the real guy next to the sketch that led to his arrest.
Where's the pointy chin?
It's uncanny, Lisa. The guy on the left is now charged with 2 counts of theft. Is being held in the Lancaster jail. And I say give that sketch artist a raise.
This wouldn't be so funny, except it's a real sketch.
That was actually the sketch that the police sent out to the good folks in Lancaster. And, hey, to their credit,
they got him.
They came through.
Okay.
Minus the hat.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.